That being a Tennessee guy, it's interesting to, I think one of the crossovers, I was talking to Matt about this in the college football show yesterday, was that like Tennessee, the one thing that can bring Tennessee fans and Georgia fans together this year is that their two quarterbacks are the actual productive, efficient college quarterbacks that every like national person wants Spencer Rattler and Will Levis to be, where it's like we're just forecasting what they're going to be in the NFL and whether or not they can be a first round guy, that kind of thing. But in practicality, week over week, I mean, the efficiency from Hendon and from Stetson is just unmatched. That you know what you're getting. You're getting elite college quarterback play in the Power Five right now, week to week. But I think it's interesting from Stetson's standpoint because something that I noticed, and I wonder at the site and from fans that y'all interact with and talk to, is that like Stetson's now in the Heisman conversation. And now, like, you saw the odds jump up. And if you didn't get on this before this weekend, then you may have missed out on a big payday a few months from now. But I think it's interesting because I think there's two schools of thought on this, which is that, like, well, it's the Will Anderson thing all over again, kind of from last year, where Jaelen Carter was doing some crazy stuff in this game. And Jaelen Carter is the best player on this Georgia team. And Will Anderson was what he was doing last year at Alabama and Bryce Young. But it always will lean quarterback, offensive skill player, that kind of thing. But it's also, I just jotted down, I was like, I want the stat to see who had the longest amount of time to throw over the weekend. And I feel like Stetson Bennett might have had and this is, again, not a slight. Georgia fans who are listening to this, it's not a slight because now it's very protective. Stetson won the title. Stetson's our guy. But something you jot down, it's like quarterbacks are better with a clean pocket. Quarterbacks are better when they have time to throw. Quarterbacks are better when you have the offensive line that Georgia's throwing out. And I think that was something that's the biggest change from this year and last year for me, was just that, like, yeah, Stetson's better, but that offensive line is better. And that's terrifying if you're an opposing defense going into Athens this fall, right? Is that a fair critique?
No, I think so. I think the offensive line, I mean, you came into this game with some questions on this offensive line. I don't know that you leave without questions in terms of who's going to be the long-term options at some of these spots. I mean, the guard spots, in my opinion, are still really up for grabs for Georgia. I think that they've got about 4 to 5 guys that they're rotating in and out. You saw a lot of Amarius Mims on Saturday coming in and spelling guys. I mean, this is a situation where they're trying to find, 4 or 5 guys here that really gel and kind of get together. But look, everybody did what they were supposed to. Like you said, Stetson had all the time in the world. And to his credit as well, though, I felt like Stetson came in and played with a little bit more swagger than we've seen from
Absolutely.
him. He was a guy who looked like he came into this year confident, and the confidence that you get maybe in knowing that you're the man now. You've got the job. This is the first time that we've in his 15 years in Athens that Stetson's been the starter for game one and the projected guy for the year. And so I think that probably boosted his confidence quite a bit. And I think that you saw that translate over to his play on the field. He was playing with a great command, making great reads, and seemed to just be out there playing a little pitch and catch.
For me, you think back to what Bryce did against Auburn, right? Where he had to that was like one of those, oh, Bryce is different. He had to put the team on his back. That Alabama offensive line was not what it's been years past. Doug Marrone out after 1 year. They pull the Kentucky offensive line coach to replace him and nip that in the bud because that's what Alabama does. Like, oh, this is a weakness last year. We're fixing that. We're not dilly-dallying around. I just don't think if Stetson is going to win the Heisman, if Stetson's going to get there, it's not the Oregon game in week 1 that propels him. And it's not what we saw on Saturday. I think it's Mississippi State. That's what I've circled, is the game against Mississippi State. And I'm curious for you, after what you've seen from Tennessee this past week, because if you look at Georgia's schedule, it was Oregon, it was Tennessee, maybe Florida. We'll get to them. And then Mississippi State was the one that I had circled of, like, I am very curious because of what Mississippi State Georgia looked like a couple of years ago. We know the record with Mike Leach coach teams when they have a third-year quarterback. Will Rogers put on a clinic against a good Memphis team over the weekend. They had the most returning production in the SEC from a year ago. I am very curious because I think that's his Heisman moment, where he has to go throw for throw against Will Rogers. If he has to put the team on his back to survive and keep an undefeated type season against Mississippi State. That's when I think the Heisman moment will maybe come about, and I'll be a bigger believer. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I think that I still have Tennessee and Kentucky circled as the two most interesting games
Hmm.
left on Georgia's schedule. I think that Georgia's offense is pretty well built, and especially given when they play Mississippi State, I
Mm.
think that they're going to have the confidence and the swagger needed. And I think that they've got the guys that can be able to control a lot of this. And I think that they'll have game experience under their belt as well. So Mississippi State looked great in week one, and I think is a talented team coming out of the West. Brian Kelly probably wishes he was coaching them right now, but I
Mm.
mean, it's I think that it's a situation really right now where those two still strike me as the most interesting because I think that they may be more complete teams
Mm.
than Mississippi State right now. I think Georgia will be able to answer defensively what Mississippi State's able to do offensively to some degree. And I really question Mississippi State's ability to stop Georgia's offense at this point in the year, more so than I do. I think Tennessee and Kentucky have a bit stronger defense, and I think that that's probably where it'll factor in.
Interesting. When you think about the offensive line, we talked about that a little bit. What you mentioned rotating guys in at the guard spots. Who are you most excited about the rest?